Hello everyone, it's Kathy Champion, and I am doing another installment on my series called I Didn't Know I Needed to Know That. I had one of my subscribers to ask a question, and they asked the question, how do you clean a stamp with the VersaMark ink? And that was my one ink I forgot to pull out. But anyway, what I did is I pulled a variety of inks here, and I want to explain inks, and then we'll go into cleaning. It's so important to know what your inks do and how to clean your inks or your stamps. So I'm going to go through it first and explain what inks are. These two inks, any of your Stampin Pads from Stampin' Up, these are known as a pigment ink. I'm sorry, a dye ink. And what a dye ink does, a dye ink actually does exactly what it says. It dyes the paper. It doesn't sit on top of the paper. It absorbs into the paper and dyes that color into your paper. Now, when you use bright colors like reds, you're going to get some staining. And this is a perfect example of a stained stamp. You can see that this stamp doesn't look clear like this stamp. Both of these stamps are clean, but you can see the difference. This one still looks very clear. This one is it has a pigment on it. And I'm going to show you by holding it up on top of a piece of white cardstock. See, it has a reddish tint. More than likely I used red or a purple or a burgundy or some type of ink that had a high pigmentation. That stamp is clean, but it's stained. And a stained stamp is not a bad stamp. It just means that it's been loved a lot and been used a lot. So even though I cleaned it, and how you know that a stamp is clean is put it on a stamp block, have yourself a piece of white paper like this, and if you stamp it and you have no residue of that color ink on your cardstock. Let me zoom y'all in just a little bit. I try to do that slow so I don't make anybody dizzy. But as you can see, there's no pigment or no stamp coming off or ink from the stamp. It's not showing up. So it is a stained stamp, but it's a clean stamp. Now, the question that my subscriber, and thank you so much for asking a question. I love it when people ask questions. They were talking about the VersaMark ink. Well, as many of you know, VersaMark, sorry about that stain. I do have a cleaner pad. Let me grab my other one. This is my older one, and I do have a newer one that I have gotten from Stampin' Up, and it's the very same ink. The only difference, it has the Stampin' Up logo on the back, and it has the order number right there. So, but this is the same ink pad. It is a clear ink, and this ink is used for embossing. For using it, if you're using types of powder or maybe even some chalking or something like that, you can stamp in this ink, and then whatever you put over it will stick to it, and then you can heat set it or whatever, and it makes a beautiful, beautiful image. Now, this ink is very sticky to the touch, and in talking about cleaning your stamp, there are two ways that Stampin' Up has for cleaning stamps. One is we have the Simply Shammy, and I have two of them in one of these holders, or it's actually a stamp case. Now, they will get stained. These are stained from use and overuse. You take these to the sink and just rinse them out with water. If they get really stained, you can wash them with a little dish soap, and just make sure you run them under the water until you get all the soap out of them and squeeze them good. Now, I use a spray bottle, and I have one of these spray bottles like this, and this is how I just spray mine with some water and re-wet them. And they will do a good job as a temporary cleaning on your stamps. Now, if your stamps get really, really dirty, Stampin' Up! Has a Stampin' Scrub. Let me move this ink out of my way, and I'll show you our Stampin' Scrub. I might need to zoom y'all back out for this. Let's cover up our ink. I never like to leave my inks uncovered for any length of time. But this opens up like this, and you have a little rain drops over here and sunshine over here. What that tells you is this is like Velcro. It is a Velcro material, but it's much, I guess, deeper than Velcro. And all you do when you clean your stamps with this, you have a clean side and a dry side. And you want to invest in a bottle of the Stampin' Mist because this is a stamp cleaner. And all you do is you squirt it on this side of your Stamparatus. Get a good little amount on there. And I'm going to show you in using the VersaMark, since that was our question, I'm going to stamp this sentiment in my VersaMark, and we're going to stamp it like we were going to emboss, and we'll stamp it right there. And I can see the image, it's showing on there, but now we still have that sticky residue on our stamp. So this is where our Stampin' Scrub will come in, because I've squirted my cleaner right there. Now I'm just going to do some little circle motions, just like that, up and down, back and forth, so it's getting into all those little grooves on there. Now after you finish doing that, you're going to want to take it over to the drying side of your Stamparatus, I'm so sorry, Stampin' Scrub, and then you're going to dry it over here. And this is going to take off any of that residue that was over there. Now you've got a perfectly clean stamp. Now if you want to go even one further, you could take it to this after you clean it and give it a good wipe on your water cleaner, and you have absolutely no residue left on this stamp. So this is the two systems that Stampin' Up! Has for cleaning your stamps, and both of these work wonderfully. Now if you're dealing with the dye ink, the Momento and the Stampin Pads, like I said, are dye ink. They dye the paper. That's why you can use your alcohol markers with these particular inks. These two inks right here are perfectly safe to use with your alcohol markers. That's because they dye the paper. Now a pigment ink is like a VersaFine. Now Stampin' Up! Doesn't carry VersaFine. I do have VersaFine because there are times that I love to use this ink. But Stampin' Up! Doesn't carry the VersaFine. I wish they did. But this is a pigment ink, and a pigment ink does not dye your paper. It sits on top of the I'm going to show you. I'm going to clean this one off. Let's cover that ink up. We have one more ink that we're going to cover, and that is going to be the bad boy of the inks, I like to call it, because it has its place in your craft room, but it is definitely now as you can see, the stamp does not look clean now. It looks dirty. I'm going to bring over I just cleaned it on that, so I'm going to bring over my Stampin' my Simply Shammy, and I'm going to try cleaning it on that. So the pigment inks will stain your stamps more than the dye inks. I was able to get it somewhat clean, but you can still see it has a little bit of black residue. Now, is the stamp clean? Let's check it. Let's check it and see. It is clean, because look, we're not getting any image whatsoever, but look at the stamp itself. It looks dirty, but it's clean. It is only stained. So that brings us to our Stazon. Now Stazon is a solvent ink, which means it is a highly concentrated chemical type ink, But what it's made for is to stamp on non-porous surfaces. So if you wanted to stamp on acetate sheets, if you wanted to stamp on glass, if you wanted to stamp on marble, tiles, plastic, anything that doesn't have a surface that absorbs, this is the ink you would need to use, because not only will you get a beautiful image, but I want to show you what can happen. I have an older stamp set. This stamp set has since retired, but I love this stamp set, so I've held on to it and I will not get rid of it. But I did a beautiful card on acetate pockets that I used my laminator. So what I did is I stamped in a beautiful blue and sealed it up inside of a laminate pocket, and then I put it in the window of a card, and it was gorgeous. But I want to show you the difference in, well, I think I used it on that one too. Let's see, let's turn the stamp set over. You can see which one I used the most. That one right there, that stamp is clean. Believe it or not, that is a clean stamp, but it is very stained because I use Stazon on it. Now Stazon has its own cleaner. They have a, it's called Stazon Cleaner, and it does tell you that you need to use this in a ventilated area. So if you're going to use this in your craft room, make sure you have the fan on. If you can open a window, that's a good thing. Of course, in the summertime, as hot as it is, it's been around here, you probably don't want to do that. But you can put this directly onto your stamp like this. And then you can take a soft cloth, and I have several of my microfiber cloths that I use, and then what you want to do is you just want to rub it and rub it. But as you can see, even though the stamp, I have cleaned it and cleaned it and cleaned it, it's still stained. So what I want to teach in this lesson is that not every stamp that is stained is dirty. It's just that it's stained. And I always say that a stained stamp is a love stamp. So if you have stamps that are stained like this, it means that you've loved them a lot, you've used them a lot, and there's nothing wrong with a stained stamp. Now, some people, it drives them insane, but you have to reach the point to realize that if you use your stamps for what their intended purpose, which is to stamp them, you're going to get some residue of ink on them. And so it will be a little bit harder to clean your stamps the more you use them, but that's what they're meant for. They're meant to be used. So I hope that in my little mini video of inks and cleaning your stamps, you have learned something. Your different types of ink. Here's our different types, our VersaFine, VersaMark, Momento, Stazon, and then of course our regular Stampin Pads, which are a dye ink. So a dye ink versus a pigment ink versus a solvent ink versus a watermark ink. So those are your inks, and then here are your stamp cleaners, your Stampin' Mist, your Stazon cleaner, a simply Shammy and some water, your Stampin' Mist with your Stampin' Scrub. A wonderful combination for cleaning your stamps. Everyone needs to have a system for cleaning their stamps in their stamp room. And I would say that if you buy Stazon ink, buy the Stazon cleaner. If you are using your dye inks, by all means, you need a Stampin' Scrub and a stamp cleaner. For your general cleaning when you are busy crafting, your Simply Shammy with some water will do the trick. Just make sure you keep this clean. If you keep these in one of these stamp cases like this, and you can buy these from Stampin' Up, and I think you get 4 of them for $8, which is $2 a piece, and they're very versatile. And you can just have one. I had one in here for the longest kind of time, and I decided to add a second one because this one had gotten, and it has shrunk because I've used it so much. They will shrink on you a little bit because look at the difference in the size of that one versus this one. They do shrink up. I can't explain why, but they do. They shrink on you a little. But this is a very economical way to clean your stamps. Does it do as thorough a job as a stamp cleaner and the Stampin' Scrub? No, it doesn't. But it is a good way to do a quick clean in between stamping. And then you can always come back and do a thorough cleaning with your stamps with this. So I hope that's helped explain things a little bit, and now you know better how to clean your stamps and your different types of ink and what they do. And I hope this has been educational, if nothing else. So thanks so much for joining me today. God bless and keep you. And as I always say in closing, let everything that you do and say bring glory to our Father in heaven. He is so worthy of our praise, our honor, and our glory. And I just thank Jesus every day for each and every one of you. God bless and keep you. And until we craft again, bye-bye.